Good Monday evening to everyone on this beautiful day in January, the 20th of 2025. We are the Light Gate, and we are coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans in Louisiana at the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. We are on Facebook, we are on Roku, we are on Rumble, and we're on YouTube. We have radio listeners around the world, and we're real excited tonight because we have a wonderful returning guest, and we're going to get to her in just a second. But thank you, Carnation. We would like to thank you for being our sponsors. There's nothing better than this. We drink it. This gets put in my milk, my coffee every single day. Go, Carnation. Right. Preston, I'm going to hand it over to you because I'm very excited. I love this woman, and go.
Yes, me too. She's so sweet. Just a real delight. So I'm very excited to have her back on the show. But first, let me introduce you all to episode 91 of The Light Gate. So excited. I'm your host, Preston Dennett. My lovely co-host is Dolly Safran. She's a contactee, subject of my book, Symmetry, a true UFO adventure. And we're working on a sequel. We've just about finished most of the interviews, so it's going to be pretty exciting. It's really exciting, too, how much of Dolly's experiences matches our guest tonight. It's one of the reasons I know she's a genuine contactee. But before we start with our show, let me just say hi to all you guys here who have joined us so graciously. Love you all. It's such a delight to see you each Monday evening. We have so much fun here. Last week's show was amazing with James Fox. What a great catch that was. I really did not expect him to agree to come onto the show, but he did, and it was a fun show. And I think tonight's show is going to be equally fun, and we have quite a few of you here already. So I'm going to be quick because I do want to get to our guest. She's got so many experiences. But let's see, we have Renee Cruz, who is first in line. Thank you, Renee. You're pretty much a regular, so it's always a treat to see you here. We have Ruth Kleiber. Hi, I will be listening. Awesome. And Louise, another regular. Hope you're doing well, Louise. I believe in New Jersey, right? Tim Houston, all the way from Australia. I just love that. That is very cool.
That's cool.
We have Gizmo. We have Peak. Happy Lightgate Monday. Welcome, Karen. We have Kaj Vardinghus. I think that's the first time I've said your last name, Kaj. It's cool. Okay. We have the Owl Man. We have Lunar Dove from Ohio. Darn cold here. What degrees is it here, Dolly? 18?
It's 16 at the moment.
Yeah, it's cold.
We're going into the single digits sign, and it's going to happen in an hour or two. So, woohoo!
16 at the Owlman's home too. Okay, who else do we have? Oh, Lunar Dove, thank you so much. That's really, really very, very nice of you. You guys are amazing. Your contributions really help us to do this show and continue to do this show. So namaste. We can always count on you. You are just endlessly wonderful. We love you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Karen Holton's even in chat. We'll get you on in just a second, Karen. We have Scarlet Fire. Very cool. Love is the answer. We have Tim Houston. We have a lot of people here tonight. It's so cool.
Yes. It's getting busy in here. Yeah.
Free Market Gold with greetings and salutations. We have videos from the underground. Cool. Awesome. Oh, the Owl Man.
Hi, Owl Man.
You guys are so wonderful and amazing. You just warm my heart each and every Monday. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That is just very cool. Teresa Levine, thanks for joining us. Scarlet Fire. So many trolls visiting my YouTube haunts lately. I am trolled regularly, so don't let it get you down. It's a good sign. It's flattering, actually. That means you're pushing buttons. It's the way I look at it. Okay, who else do we have here? We have Brian Morgan. We have Judy Wilhelm. Judy. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Amazing. We have Octopus with no friends.
You have friends.
They're regular. We're your friends. We have As Is. I love you.
I like that.
Okay. Foggy Notions podcast. Very
Howdy.
cool.
Yep.
Oh, wow. Kelly Gauthier. Thank you, Kelly. It's
Hello.
awesome to see you here. Michael Kennedy, how you doing? Always bringing the popcorn. We love you.
Kylie.
Hector Gonzalez, all the way from Queens, New York. Thank you, Hector, for joining us. We have Austin Branson. We have Justin Sane. We have me about to get in trouble if I don't get this show started. Bob Thorson, thank you for joining us. And thank you for the very generous donation.
Thank you.
We love you. Thank you. CT Guitar Guy.
Hi, CT Guitar Guy.
The Mookie. Have you seen the Jake Barber story?
Yes.
We have. We'll have to do another Q&A because things are happening so fast. I got some things to say, and I know Dolly does too. Linda Catlett. Wes Decker.
Very cool. Thank you.
Very, very much. We wish you the best. We truly appreciate your support and generosity.
Thank you.
RP Bajbi. First time here at the live show. Awesome.
Oh, cool. Welcome.
Thank you for joining us.
Hope you have a good time.
Cool. We have Joe Batista. We have Alex from Wisconsin. We have Jared Amadeus Schiffer. We have Glenn Anderson all the way from Norway.
Ooh, I do.
I hope you enjoy the books.
Yeah.
Okay, we have Moonfire, and I'm going to get started now. Bambi Dudley. We have Henry Jackson. We have Jan D. We have In My Opinion, Shelley Gomley. Yeah, we better get going. Just a couple more. Olivia. We have Natasha Stone, and we have Runs with Scissors. Be careful, Runs with Scissors.
Yeah, definitely. Don't fall.
Okay, now let's get our show started because I've already taken my 5 minutes allotted time, or 7 as it turns out to be. But yeah, we have a really wonderful guest tonight. I'm so excited. She is a returning guest. We've had her on, I think once before, maybe twice.
3 times already. Thank you very much. Jen's been on with us 3 times. Or
we've been on her show.
And then, yeah, we've all been together 3 times already.
Yeah, she does Angels and Aliens podcast. So check that out. We'll talk a little bit about that for sure. But for those of you who don't know Karen Holton, let me tell you a little bit about her. Here is her bio. We're so happy to have her back. She is an ET and angelic experiencer, an author, an ex-political ambassador, holistic coach, and a trans-dimensional channel. Her professional experiences include shamanic guidance, awakening and ascension counseling, as well as public discourses. This is what she does. She's helping people who are having these very unusual experiences and having difficulty processing them or helping them to process them. As part of the Forbidden Knowledge News Network, Karen hosts the Quantum Guides Show. That's the podcast. She does the Angels and Aliens Facebook group. Okay. This weekly podcast is ideally suited to the newly awakened and for those who are awake, but may be socially isolated by their alternative beliefs. I've been there, done that. She also hosts the podcast called Aliens and Angels, which focuses on personal and paranormal experiences. Okay. Karen believes that self-love and self-care build the foundation for personal activism, awakening, and ascension as we become the change that we wish to see in the world. Wise words there. We become the change. Karen, and this is what I'm so excited about, is the author of the new book, Transdimensional, Meet the New Neighbors. And in fact, let me just bring up a picture of that real quick here because I do want you guys to see the cover. Give me just 1 second. I have it right here because I just finished reading.
I'm bringing Karen in. Hey, here we go. While you do that. Hi, Karen.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Probably a good idea if having trouble pulling it up.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, I have an image in the background.
Yeah, there it is. Look.
Boom. There it is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's the Kindle for sure. It's available on Kindle and paperback.
Yes, this is Transdimensional, Meet the New Neighbors for those of you who or listening on radio, it's a beautiful cover. And this presents her incredible firsthand experiences with extraterrestrials, interdimensionals. It's now available as paperback and Kindle on Amazon worldwide. And do check out the many links she has in the show notes. Because
when you go to Amazon, say transdimensional and then her name, Karen Holton, and it'll pop it up for you. If you put her name first and then the name of the book, it might not help you out. But if you put the name of the book and then her name, it'll work.
Yep.
In Amazon. Okay.
So first of all, Karen, thank you for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. Always so great to get together with you guys. And you guys have a special place in my heart because, well, if it wasn't for you, Preston, I never would have written the book, you know? I just thought I was a real weirdo, a real oddball. And then Chris Matthew asked me to do a presentation at the Forbidden Knowledge NewsCon, and I did. And that's where I met you, Preston. We did our round table together.
Yeah.
And you asked if I could send you a digital copy of my presentation, and you shared it with Dolly. And then you came back and said, Karen, you got to write a book. And so I went, oh, wow, that's a big job, but I guess I could. And here I am. I wrote the book. So thank you. Thank you both for having a vote of confidence in me and for validating my experience, because I, for the longest time, felt like quite the weirdo, I have to say.
Oh,
Not alone with that. I think that's a very common pathway for experiencers. They're like, am I crazy? You know, what's going on here? I've got to keep this secret. People don't understand. So yeah, when I heard your story, I'm like, oh gosh, I hope you do write a book. I always encourage experiencers to do so because honestly, we don't have enough
that's
firsthand cases written by the experiencer themselves, which brings an immediacy to the story that, you know, someone like me just can't deliver because I'm telling someone else's story. I'm going to tell my own one day. I think I've got enough material now.
He does. Yeah.
But yeah, this is what I love about your story. I just finished the book and I just want to give it a big shout out because there's a lot of books out there and some written by experiencers. But Karen, you did exactly what I was hoping you would do. You were brutally honest. You let it all hang out. It's a very personal book.
Very well written, very well spoken through her words. It's unbelievably good.
Thank you. Well, I didn't want to just have like dates and experiences. I wanted to bring the reader with me on my journey, if I could, you know, and I'm not an experienced writer. This is my first book. In fact, I have never really done much writing. And so it was important to me. That's why it took so long, I think, for me to get it published, was because I wanted to I wanted the reader to experience what I was experiencing, the awe of the whole experience. And the other thing that I think is unique about my book and why I think it's so important is that it adds another whole dimension and perspective to the UFO and ET phenomenon. And, you know, there are a lot of accounts and a lot of experiences, and I validate all of them. I don't think anybody's wrong. Honestly, I think we are filtering our experiences through our own perception, and we're giving it out the best we can. And we all perceive things a little differently, and we haven't been given the concepts or the language to openly talk about these things. That makes it really difficult, not to mention the public ridicule and everything else. So it was important for me to get my perspective out there. And so I see all of our perspectives as being complementary and not competitive.
Right.
And, but, you know, there is also, I believe, kind of a narrative that's being perpetuated that may not be real, that is trying to railroad us from the true, I think the true teachings of our experiences. And what I notice is those of us who are honestly giving our experiences as awkwardly as we present the information, is it's all saying the same thing. It's saying that these beings advanced, far advanced beyond us. They want peace. They want us to have peace. They want us to step up and to improve our lives and our societies and our families and our friendships so that we can take our place amongst the intergalactic and transdimensional families that we're a part of, and that we have more in common than we have that separates us, much the way we on Earth have so much in common. And I think it's really important that we put away our adversarial way of looking at things. And I think that's what ET wants for us too.
Yep.
Yeah, I totally agree. And yeah, the book is very emotional. It's not dry. You know, it will make you laugh. It might make you cry. I did, you know, brought a tear or two for me for some of the things you went through, particularly as a young child. But really, it's also incredibly profound. And what I like about your experiences is they are very extensive. This is not someone being taken up into a craft and physically examined and let go. This is you living among the ETs in a very real way. And I can see how this was very difficult to process for you at first, because it's a lot. And
it is. It really is. And in the beginning, I thought I was dreaming, and then I thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
And I want to speak to the time dilation. And Dolly, you know what that's like.
Yes.
So I was taken at night, every night for a 3-month period of our Earth time. But my experiences spanned about 3.5 years. So I'd be gone and I'd be experiencing days, weeks, even months, and then come back abruptly. And it was the next morning, back in my bed, back in my body, and back to my original life. And it really messes up with your head, because it's too much to process during one day, and then I'd go to sleep and I'd pick up where I left off. And so this expansion of time, that's what allowed me to have so many different adventures. But I got to tell you, I was very socially isolated. I didn't know what was going on. I loved being aboard the big ship. I loved my ET friends. I could trust them. I felt loved. I felt validated. I had purpose. I had value. All the things that were missing here, but I also felt great when I was there. And so then to come back and go, did I imagine that? Did I dream that? But it took some time before me to realize I wasn't dreaming.
Right.
Yeah, well,
This
like you
was
said,
real.
dreams have a sort of jumbled narrative to them.
Yes.
Yeah.
This was completely congruent. And
Yeah.
I would take up where I left off. I made friends that were closer than my family. I experienced things. I mean, I don't have full recall the way you have, Dolly. I don't have full recall, but I remember enough, and I did as much detail as I could. There's a few things I probably could have added, but I think it gets the gist across on, I could have talked more about what I ate. I could have talked a little bit more about the social interactions, but I think it gives the readers the gist of what it was like. And I don't expect anybody to believe me. That's not the purpose of the book. I don't need anyone to validate my experience. But what I do hope is that people will read it and it'll make an impression on them. First of all, to stop being afraid of extraterrestrials, to be more open-minded, what their purpose might be, what they might be like, but also that we have a responsibility to take good care of our health and to take good care of ourselves so that we can hold more frequency, so that we will be more in alignment with them and have a better chance of successful contact. That is why I think it's so important. And we could change this world, and it's not that hard. We can change this world. We have that power.
Yeah, I just want to read a brief quote from the book where you talk about exactly this. My goal is not to convince anyone about my truth, but rather to educate those who are open to this information and to inspire others who may share similar incidents to come out and share their truths. Although many of us experiencers suffer from stigmatization and ridicule when we go public with our adventures, we are finding each other by sharing what we know and find a heightened level of purpose as a result. beautifully put, you know, and I love
Thank
that
you.
because that's exactly what Dolly basically said. She did not want this book out to try to convince people. It's to
No.
help.
Right. One of the things that I realized anyway, and I bet you have too, is that my experiences added up to a purpose. Okay.
Mhm.
I wasn't being taught for nothing. I was being taught with a purpose. And I woke up one day and realized what that was. And that was to bring the truth out, to give people an understanding of who they really are and to tell the truth about it. And it doesn't matter what other people think. I'm not going to reach everybody. Not everybody's going to believe me, but those who are waking up and know that when they hear the truth and can research what we say and come to a conclusion about it are the ones that I am speaking to. And if you're on the path, grab whatever you learn from what we talk about and then go forward on your own with your own ability attached to it. It is important for us to know that we have truth, but the main truth, the body of what truth really is, has to be researched by each of us individually. We have to discover, it's the undiscovered country, like Star Trek said, truth is the undiscovered country and we have to go there, and it's important. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you guys in chat, please get your questions in early because we will do a little Q&A session towards the end of the show with Karen so she can answer your questions. Be respectful. If anyone gets, a little bit out of line, I will not hesitate to delete you. So yeah, no trolling. We're here to love one another.
Mhm.
So, this book is really wonderfully narrated because I like how you go through it, explaining how contact is generational, talking about your childhood and how it leads up. It just takes you, like you said, on this adventure along with you. So we get to, eat the food, taste the food that you ate and explore the ship and all this stuff. So I thought we'd just kind of take a little bit of a walk through the book, not revealing everything because there's no way we could in 2 hours. And I also want people to buy the book because it's definitely worth reading. But
Thank you.
I thought it'd be interesting to start with, how you came from parents who had some unusual experiences, or your grandmother, your mother.
Yeah, so my grandmother was well known for her invisible friends. So I live in Canada, and my grandmother, this is back in the pioneer days, just shows how old I am. And she was raised in a logging camp, and she was a little girl, and she had nobody to play with. And she'd go off into the woods, and she'd come back with these fantastic stories about her friends. And her parents and the community knew there was nobody around, so they thought she was just making it up. She was making up imaginary friends, but these friends stayed in close psychic contact with her for her whole life. In fact, she didn't go and hang out with the neighbors. She was devoted to her family. She had a very large family, 10 kids, but she just was content because she had these connections with these beings. And so the other thing is my grandmother had very little education, like equivalent to like grade 4. She could barely even read. But the ETs gave her um, methods for doing healing. And so she was a well-known healer. She was a midwife. If there was a doctor around, she assisted the doctor as a midwife, but she also had all kinds of ways of healing people because a lot of people didn't have access to a doctor. So I'll just give you one quick example. There was a neighbor, and he had this is probably in the 1940s, and he had back surgery, and he was in a cast, and he was in so much pain. He was just moaning so loud that the whole neighborhood was disturbed. And my grandmother had my uncles go out and shoot a skunk, but they had to shoot it without disturbing it. And they brought the stink sack home, and my grandmother cooked it up in a big pot with animal fat, like from venison and from moose, because that's what they ate then, and some herbs and things. And she created the salve, and she made like a giant Q-tip out of a stick with a rag wrapped around one end. And she took it over to the neighbor's house, and she dipped it in this salve, and she put it down the back of the man's cast, and it absolutely soothed his pain so that he could relax, sleep, and heal. Nobody knows how Grandma was able to come up with these different concoctions, whether they were herbal or, I mean, who would know to go shoot a skunk? Come on, that's pretty fantastical, right? And so she was well known as a healer, and she always knew what was going on with her kids, even when they were grown up. And my mother was actually very afraid of her psychic abilities. My mother and my stepfather wanted to move up the social ladder. And in those days, as even now, if people think you're crazy or weird, you will not get the advantages that you would get for moving up the social ladder. So my mom kept pretty tight-lipped, but she did launch herself as an alternative healer, and she didn't have any training either. And people would come from miles, hundreds of miles, to see my mom for healing. And her mother, neither one charged a dime. They just made themselves available to people who were suffering so that they could get a healing. And then there's me. And oh my gosh, I've had these paranormal experiences since I was little. I'm wondering if I can just take a minute to talk about childhood trauma, because it seems that a lot of people with heightened abilities have been through some kind of childhood trauma. And it's not like, oh, I'm the only one that's had childhood trauma. Many of us have, too many of us have. And this stuff should never happen to children, but it does. And it's almost like when something's taken away, something else is given to us. So, we work our way through the trauma, we work our way through our lives, we get our heads back on our shoulders, and we make as best life as we can for ourselves. But I believe that when a door closes, a window opens. And it seems that a lot of people who have paranormal gifts have had some childhood trauma, and it's interesting to see the correlation. So I don't feel bad for anything I've been through. I tried not to get into too many juicy details in chapter 2, but I wanted the readers to get a gist that even though many of us have had these tragic things happen, it doesn't have to stop us from having an amazing, amazing life. That this amazing life is here for all of us. And I'm not a special kind of person. I mean, yeah, I've got some probably genetics and different things, but really, I think that we all could have transdimensional experiences in ET contact.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's just for a few or religious people. I think it's for everybody. So I just want to start off with that.
Well, I want to thank you for having the courage to talk about that, because I think a lot of people do have difficult childhoods. And I totally agree. I did a whole study of multiple personality people who went through really severe trauma, and every single one of them is profoundly psychic. There's definitely a connection there. And I've noticed that a number of people I've interviewed have had difficult childhoods. So I'm not sure and I think I'm just speculating here. I think sometimes contactees, being more spiritually bent, if you want to put it that way, more spiritually inclined, I guess would be a better word, choose to come down and help the parent who might need a little bit of guidance with a child. So in a way, you're the parent to the parent. Just a theory, because I've seen this with a lot of contactees. They have a difficult parent. Usually one's fine, but another one maybe not so much. It's interesting to me. But yeah, thanks for just being honest about it, because I just know there are other people out there who don't have the courage to come forward, who have had this kind of experience. And I loved how you described how some of these experiences led to remote viewing or astral projection. So yeah, could you talk a little bit about?
Oh yeah. So
or remote viewing?
So one experience that I think a lot of us have had is when I was little, I would go to sleep at night and I was flying. I was seeing the aerial photography below me. I had no way of knowing what things look like from the sky. I couldn't have made it up. But these dreams were in full color, and it was spectacular. And it was one of the really high spots or wonderful aspects of my childhood. And I think a lot of people, even in our audience today, have had these very vivid, amazing dreams of flying. And I love that so much. Another thing that happened to me is I was very afraid of the dark. And and I couldn't sleep because I would be all tucked in under my covers and I couldn't breathe under there. And so one time I don't know if it actually appeared or whether it was a vision. I don't know. I was young, like 5 years old. And this huge fiery griffin appeared. And it let me know there was no speaking, no words, but it let me know that it was there to protect me and that I was safe. And I didn't have to worry about going to sleep. This beautiful fiery griffin. I have a few images in my book. They're AI generated. I didn't draw them. I'm not that talented. But it gives you the gist of what it was like. And I was a little girl, and I have a picture in there of me with the fiery griffin. And this griffin would come. I would just summon it. I'd be scared at night, and I just summon my griffin, and it would show up. And it was amazing. It was amazing. So I can't really explain how that happened. But then sorry, go ahead.
I have a question for you. Do you realize that you're OBE when you're flying? You're out of body. It's not really a dream. You're lucidly OBEing, and your physical mind is hearing what you're doing and seeing what you're doing. One of the tip-offs is that, and you just almost described it perfectly. You left out something. Yes, it's in color. Yes, you hear the sound, but you also have the physical feeling of it as well. Because even outside the body, we feel everything. All our senses are at play. And one of the first things I learned when I was very, very small, because I started to fly very, very young, OBE, was that I was not in my body, that I was outside, and that I was really seeing this. I became obsessed with verifying it. And it's funny you had a griffin, because I had a dragon. That's why I have a blue dragon on my book, because I have a blue dragon. I'm obsessed with my dragon. I love my dragon. And I tried to figure out, where did this guy come from? And it's a past life in another place in the universe. And you actually know this entity, and it is protecting you. You know,
I had an OBE with a dragon once. I was an adult, but what's so interesting, Karen, is that you weren't even really aware of what a griffin was until you saw one later. You're like, oh my gosh.
No, it wasn't until I was in my 20s that I saw a book, and I was flipping through, and it had kind of like fantasy animals and stuff, from folklore. And there was my griffin, and it had the eagle head and the eagle wings, but it had the body of a lion. Now, how could I have imagined that when I was 5 years old? Like I think that a lot of what we think is imagining is real stuff.
Yeah, it goes all the way back to the Egyptians. They have hieroglyphs with griffins all over them. It's not just English folklore or, medieval. It goes way back in multiple places. So, yeah.
You also talked in the book about a really interesting angelic visitation. Can you share a little bit? That was a good one.
Yeah, sure. So, but I also just want to tell people, when they buy the book, there's quite a few other paranormal experiences that are unbelievable that I also have in chapter 2. But in chapter 2, I also talk about my angelic experience. And this shows you how important it is for us to keep our frequency at a certain level. So what happened is I had a very traumatic experience. Long story short, my ex-husband had remarried, and they convinced me that it was their turn to raise the children. And so I didn't want to say no, because I wanted them to have every opportunity. So I let them go live with their dad, and then he cut me off, and it broke my heart. I was in such a deep state of grieving. What I didn't know was that there was a man that lived in the same house as me who had committed suicide 2 years earlier. And I found this out because I met a woman who asked me where I lived. I told her. She says, oh my God, I know the mother of the man that died in that house. But this is later. This is like 2 years later. But at the time, I was in such a low state of grieving and sadness. I didn't want to live. And I got imprinted. I don't know if it was residue from the way the man felt that had committed suicide in the house. I don't know if it was a ghost. Like, I don't know. I don't have answers to everything. But I got imprinted to kill myself. And it turns out it was exactly the same way that he did it. And it was in a very specific way. So here I was going to off myself. And I was up all night. I was crying and I was crying and I was so unhappy. And I missed my children so much. I just didn't want to live without them. And all of a sudden, I saw what appeared to be right in front of my eyes, all these points of light. And there was light flashing out the sides that gave them the appearance of wings. So they didn't look like humanoid angels, but they definitely looked like angels from the way the light was flashing out. And I don't know if it was one or 1,000, but it sounded like 1,000 beings speaking to me all at once in absolute perfect harmony and in perfect unison. And they literally said to me, Karen, why are you wanting to leave this world? What's going on? And I told them, and I said, I got to tell you, life kind of sucks. I didn't come here for this. There's got to be more than intense suffering. And if I'm just going to suffer, then I want out, And they said to me, or it, like, I don't know, said to me, if you decide you want to stay, we'll give you a gift. And I thought, what the heck would I ask for? What kind of gift are they talking about? Like, I didn't even know what was going on, but it shook me up enough that it sort of allowed me to change the course of my life. And so I said to them, I said, well, I don't want to decide right now. I need to think about this. Like, this was really, really big. And they said, no problem. They said, we're always close by. All you have to do is vocalize what it is you want, and you've got it, because we're sincere. We want to give you a helper. I said, okay, thank you very much. And then it faded from my vision, and that was the end of that. And the next couple of days, I started going for these long walks. And I was thinking, what do I want? What do I want? I thought, oh, money. If I had a whole bunch of money, I could fix this problem. I could get a lawyer. I could get my kids back. But I knew that wasn't right. I knew that wasn't what I needed. And then I thought, oh, if I was really beautiful, I'd probably get a really rich husband and he'd help me get my kids back. I mean, these are just all the crazy things. This is why I didn't want to be too quick to make my decision, right? And I went, no, that's not it either, Karen. I know that's not it. And it took me a few days, and I would go out and walk for miles just thinking. And then then I knew what I needed. What I needed was wisdom, because if I had wisdom, I would know what to do. I could make a success out of my life. I could be a blessing on this planet, and I could turn things around. Now, this is the really freaky part, and I don't expect anybody to believe me. But then I heard a voice, and it's not like I hear voices, guys, but I heard a voice, and it said to me, Karen, do you want the quick method or the slow method? And I didn't think about it. I just blurted out, I want the quick method, because I didn't want to suffer anymore. But what I didn't realize, and I should have checked into, was the quick method was the really intense method, which meant that I had to handle all the shit life threw at me over the next number of years. And that's how I would learn, and that's how I would become wise. Whereas the slow method was a gentler path. But no, I had to choose the quick one. And so there were several times in the next few years where I went, oh, Karen, what the hell were you thinking? But then, you know what? I learned so much. I learned more than I'd ever learned in my whole life in a fairly short period of time. And then I stopped making mistakes, and I started actually engineering my life. And it was the most amazing thing that ever happened to me. And that happened before the ET contact. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I like that, because if you don't lead your life will lead you. So it's good to take charge. And that I found that whole story to be really touching, because I've interviewed other people who've talked about their angelic encounters, and they've also said they speak in chorus.
Mhm.
So that was a little detail that I thought, wow, this is something, it gave me chills. And also, talking about living in a place where someone had committed suicide. I interviewed another contactee, a Native American guy whose son became really depressed. They could not figure it out. And, regular conventional medicine wasn't helping him. He had gone to Europe for a foreign student transfer type thing and came back suicidal. Well, it turned out the room he was staying in, their son had committed suicide. They ended up doing a Native American healing, and the spirit had attached to him, came out, and it was a big celebration. And then a UFO showed up during the celebration where the guy was freed from this spirit attachment. So that was like, wow, this is another story that's very similar to what you just described. I think that does happen.
Happened for me, and I'm not making any of this stuff up. This really happened. And I would even be willing to take a lie detector test. No problem.
I love that.
No problem, because this is my life is pretty amazing. When I look back at it, as long as I can keep my head from getting down about the negative stuff that happened to me, and I look at all this amazing stuff. So writing the book was very therapeutic for me. And it reminded me of all these amazing experiences I've had. And I had to write about it. I had to tell other people so that they could know there's so much more. I believe we're born into a construct that's, I don't know if it's how it got started. I'm not even going to speculate, but there are a few people, like 1% of the Earth's population, that hold all the power, and they decide how things are going to be for the rest of us. And this construct is a false matrix. And there are all kinds of things that we're only allowed to believe certain things. We're only allowed to do certain things. We don't even have concepts and language to reach outside. And I think that's part of breaking out of the matrix or the construct, is to form our own language and start describing, as awkward as it may be, that we start to describe these experiences. And then we go, oh my God, Dolly, when I was reading Preston's book about you, I was crying because I went, oh my God, how could she have known that the ship was alive? How could she have known? And then it makes you really excited because it's real, because otherwise you kind of never really know if it's real or not, because you're not given any positive feedback or any validation, and I was like bawling my eyes out, and I went, oh my God, Dolly, when I write my book, you're going to think I'm plagiarizing, and I'm not. I'm not.
I knew you weren't. One of the cool things about being psychic is that when you talk about the angelic being, they all speak in unison. ETs do the same thing. It's Whitley Strieber tried to call it communion. Okay, it is in accordance with each other. They all hear each other at the same time. Nobody's lying. They all speak the same psychic language, and it is unified. It's everybody's speaking the same thing. There's no difficult misunderstandings going on. It's down on you, and you've got it. One of the other things they taught me, because my life hasn't been a bowl of cherries either. I've had a lot of really tough educational moments, and I woke up one day and I realized that this is for a reason. You can't gain wisdom unless you know everything that's knowable, good, bad, indifferent, all of it. And each one of those experiences elevates you in wisdom and understanding. And it also teaches you the importance of speaking the truth about you and to others. We can only learn from each other. And if we don't talk about these things, we learn nothing from each other. We're hiding. And you're right. The powers that be on this planet, the 1%, have taught everybody to be separate, to have a side eye and misjudgment, misunderstanding, and a fear of each other. And so we're not communicating like we should. And it's wonderful for contactees to come out and tell their truth, their story, so that we all can join with them and compare and contrast, to understand, to learn things that we wouldn't have learned any other way. You can write books all day long, but unless you're in community with everybody else and we're all helping one another with that by communicating these things, you're exactly right. We're a lost group, and it's important that we all show up and use our voices.
And like you said, it's very therapeutic. I always recommend to contactees, write this down. It will help. Not only keeps events straight, but it absolutely is therapeutic.
Right.
It's amazing because you start to remember more details too.
Yes.
As you go through.
You're not. Yeah. Your brain goes, oh yeah, remember this, and da 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 da. It gets more and more and more. Fear will block your hippocampus from giving you long-term memory from a short-term event. And it's really important to reschool yourself in it, talk about it, open up to yourself. Self-truth is just as important as any type of other truth that you're working on. Self-deluding ourselves is very bad for you. You just tell the truth to yourself, write it down. That's one way to do that. And you've put it in the firmament of yourself. You write it in stone of who you are. And that's important. Know thyself,
It's funny, we haven't even started to get into your book really at all. It's so amazing. Because the meat, I love how it gets really deep into it towards the middle and the end. But you did have UFO sightings as well. So I'd like to touch on that because that brings it, a level of physicality to it. Like, you know what? This is not just dreams. You actually have had some physical sightings.
Yeah, I sure have. And it's interesting that the sightings actually happened between the angelic experiences and the ET contact.
Cool.
And so I've heard that after people start to see UFOs, often they start to have contact. Anyway, I think the most, I'll tell you a couple of the most dramatic ones. One, I was driving up on the North Island Highway, which passes through Nanaimo and goes up the coast of the east coast of the island. It's a huge island. And I saw this fireball coming down on an angle in the sky. And it was kind of like gold and copper, super sparkly. It had a short tail, and there was a low mountain range beside me. And it came down on an angle and it landed on the top of those mountains. I didn't feel any impact, any vibration. I didn't hear any sound, nothing. And I looked around and nobody else seemed to notice. But it was like totally obvious for me. And when I got home, I did an internet search whether there was any comets or space debris or anything. There was nothing. And I thought, how could I be the only one that saw it? And I saw it. It was definitely, I saw it. And another kind that I saw, for me to see UFOs, it's kind of like, I don't know if you guys get this, but you get the feeling to look at the clock and it says 11:11. I don't know what's up with that, but it happens to me all the time. And so I just kind of know to look at the right spot at the right time. And there was this gray metallic looking cigar shaped UFO up there. And then all of a sudden, right after I noticed it, there was a round, I'm guessing it was a portal. It was rainbow colored, circular. And so the cigar shaped UFO started to insert itself into this circle, but as it went in, it appeared to shorten because you didn't see it coming out the other end, right? And so it went in, and then when it disappeared, the portal itself shrunk and disappeared. And I'm watching this going, I can't believe what I'm watching. And I'm just watching, and there it is. And
you saw light gate, Karen.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Light gate. Karen,
you the show. The light
saw
gate.
A light gate. That's how we transport through dimensionally. You saw a light gate. It's a door, not a portal. I know that a portal means a door, but it's not the way people think of portals. You're not wormholing anything. It is a dimensional door, and it's light. And you saw it arcing all the different colors in the light.
Yeah, and it just went through. So it looked like it was getting shorter and shorter, but it was as it was going into the gate, it just disappeared, and then the gate collapsed. Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool too. I've seen all kinds of orbs and things. Oh, I should tell you about the other time I was driving up island. This is really cool. I had so much fun with this experience. You know, I never got afraid during any of these experiences. It's weird. Like you would think that there'd be some fear. Not me. I never had fear. I just had fascination. Anyway, so I'm driving up island and I get tired and I pull off to the side and I decide to have a break. And all of a sudden, I see two headlights facing me. I'm looking out my driver's side window and I'm looking out over the water and I see these two headlights. And I thought, that's strange. There must be an island out there. It was dark. I couldn't see. And I thought there must be an island out there with a parking lot and the cars facing me. Well, after a little while, I felt okay and I pulled off and started driving north. And the two headlights kept pace with me. And I knew they couldn't be headlights. And because the car would have to be driving sideways for it to be two headlights. It was just looked like two headlights. And it followed me for like 10 kilometers, which is like probably about 7.5, 8 miles until I got to the next town and then it disappeared. And the next time I drove up island, I pulled over at the same spot and there's nothing out there, no island, no nothing, just way off in the distance, you could see the coast. And I went, oh my God. And I thought, of course, why me? You know, this is pretty exciting, but I'm pretty excited about it. So that happened too.
That one makes me laugh because Dolly, you described that too. The headlights.
Yeah, I did that to somebody in Indiana once. I was young lady, and I was not flying for very long, and we were in Indiana, and there's a highway there, long highway, goes from north to south, and I think it's 51 actually. And it was middle of the night and we had finished what we were doing. We were getting ready to leave. And I was over this highway and I saw a lone car out on the highway. I thought, why not? And so I got behind it. Okay, and I had to tell out to blow Chevy lights. So it thought a Chevy was behind it. And I followed it for a little while and he would speed up and I'd catch him, and we kept going. And I eventually rose up and I went over top of him and then came down in front of him and spun around and Chevy lighted him again. He slammed on his brakes. He nearly bit his tongue off. I'm not kidding you. And I felt so bad because it scared the holy, what out of him. And I can hear Talata in my mind going, was this necessary? And I went, no, not exactly. And it hurt me that I'd done this, okay? And I realized what a stupid, dumb thing I did, okay? And I was never going to do it again, never, because that scared him, okay? But yeah, I found out later that a lot of new pilots will do that. How to pilot, and it's the lights, and they look at you. They can fly sideways with you. I'll show you pictures of Talata doing that. It is, yeah, it's a thing, and a lot of young pilots will do that. They'll hot dog you. And if they got nothing better to do, and they'll just, hey, how you doing? And they're curious about everybody. And if they can hear you thinking, if you're like broadcasting really high, well, broadcasting to them, they'll be very curious about who you are. Very curious. So,
I was really excited. I was really excited. I loved it. It was like we were playing. It was fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we need to take a quick station ID break. But after we do, I'd love to hear you talk about Bob the Gray, because that's also a really interesting part of your story. We'll definitely talk about the ship, and gosh, we might have to have you back. There's so much to talk about. We've only just begun.
Right.
But I do want to let you all know you are watching The Light Gate, episode 91. Our guest today is Karen Holton. We are talking about her experiences and her book. You can see it here. Transdimensional, Meet the New Neighbors. Beautiful cover. You can see some of the illustrations of ETs there. It's a very cool cover. Wonderful title, too. I really like the choice of title as well. We've talked all about her childhood experiences, some interesting tidbits about her grandmother and mother being healers, all kinds of stuff we've touched on, an angelic experience, some out-of-body stuff, or UFO sightings, and there's so much more. But I do want to let you all know that we are streaming live on several platforms. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 107.7 FM and 105.3 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans in Louisiana. But we are on other platforms. We are on YouTube. We are on Facebook. We are on Roku. Check us out there. We are also on Rumble. I also want to let people know that Karen does have her own podcast, two of them, Quantum Guides Show and Angels and Aliens. Is that right? And what time and where can we find those, Karen?
Quantum Guide Show is every Wednesday at noon Pacific, 1 p.m. Mountain, and 3 p.m. Eastern. Aliens and Angels podcast they're both live, is on Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific, noon Mountain, and 2 p.m. Eastern time. And I'm on Rumble and YouTube, and then of course the replay goes out on all audio platforms.
All right. I also do want to give a shout out to Carnation. It's Carnation Monday. They support all the shows that air on Monday, and we are one of them. We're very blessed to have your support. So thank you. We love you. And thank you, you guys, for joining us for this show tonight. I'm putting little stars next to all your questions. I love some of these questions. They're really good ones. And we're going to pick the questions first that are geared towards Karen and her experiences. And if we have time for others that are more general, we'll definitely get to them. But yeah, Karen, your story is amazing. I'm just loving this interview. So cool. And I love your story about Bob the Gray because it brings a human aspect. People have a tendency, I think, to think about ETs as us and them. And you make it very clear, like, no, that's not how it is at all. Dolly has stated this very clearly as well. So yeah, tell us a little bit about Bob the Gray.
Yeah, so I feel a bit bad for Bob because he started to communicate with me back in like 2005. And I thought it was my imagination playing tricks on me because I didn't see him physically face to face. He would appear to me what I call the portal of my imagination. I believe that our brains and our consciousness is actually technology. And that's what it's there for, is for us to communicate and have these lucid dreaming or remote viewing, which I think is also probably the same thing as astral traveling experiences. So Bob was trying to communicate with me, and I thought it was just my imagination. So one day I started making fun of him, and then he disappeared and it didn't bother me anymore. And I went, well, that worked. Then in 2014, he started to show up again. And this time I realized he was a real thing. And I felt really bad. I felt really bad because I had basically disrespected him. And I know that I didn't deserve to have him as my friend, but he came back and he gave me another try. And so what I would do is I would sit in a comfortable chair, or I would lay down, I would close my eyes, and I would just start lucid dreaming or remote viewing. And Bob uses something, I don't know exactly how it works, but it's like a padded lounge chair. And when he sits in it and reclines, it boosts his frequency so that he can contact other beings that are either in different dimensions or far away or whatever. But so anyway, he would come to me and he would share information with me. And I am quite positive that he's the one that got me to start with the exopolitical work. And the exopolitical work is me going aboard the big ship and attending meetings, but it's always in an astral form. It's in a disembodied astral form. It's not physical. I know I'm not physical. And I'm able to communicate. And I'm grateful that most of my memories from these meetings are suppressed, because that's the kind of intel that agencies here on Earth might like to pester me for, and I don't have it to give. So it's really important that that information, specific information, be suppressed. And I don't write a lot about that in the book. But anyway, so Bob and I, I used to just sort of hang out with him. He was really an interesting kind of guy. So he looks like a stereotypical gray. There's an image of him right there. He looks like what we would consider a stereotypical gray, but he seems taller, and he always wears these black slacks and a black turtleneck sweater and a fedora hat. Now, you would never expect a gray to dress like that, but Bob dresses like that.
I've heard
So,
of other cases like that, just so you know.
oh, I didn't know that. So I
Yes.
asked him, I said, why do you dress like that? And he says, oh, he really loves, oh, he didn't use words, but he basically let me know that he really loves Michael Jackson and Frank Sinatra. And there's something about both of those performers' music that raises his mood, puts him in a good mood. He loves it. So here is a gray who has appropriated 20th century culture, and he just, that's just how he is, and it's great. And another time I wanted to get a look at him, like I could see his eyes, I could see his face, I could see his form, but I couldn't really see his mouth, and I was kind of zooming in trying to get a good look at his mouth. And he through psychic telepathy, he superimposed this great big human toothy grin onto his face. And I burst out laughing. And what he was trying to do is get me to lighten up, and just lighten up, Karen. This doesn't have to be a serious thing, right? I mean, it is serious, but you don't have to. Maybe I was poking my nose in his mouth. It wasn't my business. I don't know. But I thought that was pretty interesting. So he always comes with a sense of humor, and his energy is very light. And I actually miss him. I only saw him when I needed him, if that makes sense. And I have not seen him since 2020. And I think the reason is because he's off assisting other people with their journey. You know what I mean? Like, we kind of got to a certain point, and I was doing fine and making contact with the big ship and having my adventures. I didn't necessarily need him. There's other people who need him, but I'm pretty sure if I need him, he would be here. And so, yeah, Bob the Gray. I call him Bob the Gray. That's not really his name.
I was going to ask, yeah.
No. I just asked him if it would be okay if I called him that, and he was fine with it. So Bob the Gray, he is. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, Mama appropriated what she wore from, Pioneer Day. She loved this gingham type of, smocky kind of dress with big pockets in the front. And she picked it out of my head, and she just absolutely loved it. And oh my God, she wore them all the time. She would make them herself even, she had a good time with that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. All right. So let's get a little bit deeper into some of your experiences on the ship. And gosh, I took all these notes here. There's just no way we can get through all of this. But I loved your very vivid descriptions. Like, one that really struck me is like how you described the walls of the craft.
Yeah. So I found out, okay, so first of all, there is a chapter about my orientation. And I have no idea how I got there. All I knew was I was there. And I was in this large room, and it was an odd looking room. It wasn't square the way our rooms were. And there was no seams between the floor and the walls and the ceiling. Like, there was no seams. And and there was other people there, but they looked different. So I knew they probably were not from Earth. Like, I had a feeling I wasn't on Earth anymore. Do you know what I mean? And I went up to the wall, and it's kind of a creamy color, and I ran my finger down the wall, and here these little ripples emanated out, as if it was, I don't know, ticklish or just responsive. Later on, I found out they don't really have a use for furniture, because everything is a little bit sort of soft, not spongy, but almost kind of giving. So if you fell, you wouldn't hurt yourself. And so you could recline on the floor, and the floor would just kind of come up and cushion you so that you would be comfortable. So the big thing is that the big ship is actually alive. It's a conscious entity of itself, and we communicate with it through telepathy. It's not nuts and bolts. There's no nuts and bolts. There's no metal sheeting or anything like that.
So interesting, because I've heard other people describe that. Dolly describes that very vividly in her experiences.
Talata can do anything. I used to say you have beautiful skin, and he would get real excited when I said that. And the first time I ever touched anything inside of Talata, it reacted to me as well, and like he was shivering a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I would pet him sometimes. I'd go over to the console and just pet the console and say, "I love you." I was doing it. And my chair that I sit in was for me. Okay, it would come up and it fit me, nobody else but me. And I was tall, and so it would lower me. It would only come up enough for me to be, in the right position in that part of the craft. And it was comfortable. Oh my God, it was comfortable. And if I had a backache one day, or if I was just tired or whatever, it would conform to that and readjust me, not knowing that I needed that, which amazed the heck out of me. And my bed in my room did the same thing. It would adjust with me and knew I needed, less pressure, more pressure, being held. And I never fell out of it. And it was a narrow bed. Okay. It was more narrow than a twin bed that we're used to. They formed this space.
That was another aha moment in the book for me, because you're like, well, here's a description of my quarters. I'm like, oh, well, Dolly talks all about this. So you had actual quarters on the craft.
Yep, I did. And I mean, you could live with family, or you can live with what we call a fictitious family, which is just people you love and you want to live close to them. But I like being alone, because I sort of needed to sort out my thoughts, and I needed time to practice my telepathy, because I was terrible at it in the beginning. It took some time, some months, to actually get good at it. And but yeah, when I was shown my bed and everything, and then I went and laid down on it, and my buddy, she could tell that it was just right, because my whole body just relaxed, and it felt so good. But none of the rooms are square. They're all kind of ovoid shaped. Even the hallways or the corridors, they're kind of ovoid shape, where they're kind of flat on the bottom, but curved, across the top. That was really interesting. Also, it was not like a sterile environment. There were plants that grew everywhere, and edible plants. So we kind of got together for more of a formal meal once a day. But the rest of the time, you would just pick berries and sample leaves and just take what you wanted and figure out what you liked. And so eventually I ended up designing this sort of basket that I would wear. It had a strap, and I'd poke my head and shoulders through, and it would just sort of rest at my waist. And then I could just pick stuff and put it in there, and collect all kinds of stuff, because I was so fascinated with the food source. Actually, that's what led me to a botany specialization, was because I was so interested in all the plants, and they're beautiful, and they just grow everywhere. And it gives you a little bit of that fresh environment, as if you're walking through the woods. It gives you that, where you're surrounded by life. And it was completely different than what we would consider institutions that we see here on Earth. Completely different than that.
Yeah. Another thing that I was fascinated by, because you don't hear it a lot, and I really dived deep in symmetry with Dolly, was bathrooms. Because people are always asking me, I've never heard of anyone describe a bathroom. I'm like, well, wait a second. Karen Holton does in her book, Transdimensional. And it's interesting. Do you mind me talking a little bit about it?
For it. Yeah.
Okay, so basically you just kind of go into a smallish room, and see, the ship is telepathic, And it has everything for every purpose in it, pretty much every area. So it assembles what you need when you need it. It's kind of like nano self-assembling technology, if that makes sense. So you go in there and the ship knows you have to go to the bathroom, and a little platform comes out just from the wall. It just assembles and forms. And then there's this sort of pleated tube that then assembles up from the platform. And you just drop your drawers and park it. And, if you're used to squatting or standing or however you're comfortable, and you do your business. And all ETs have a very similar physiology, digestive system, I have to say, very similar. And then when you're done, there's like this little poof of like powder, and I guess it dissolves any leftover moisture or debris, let's call it debris, and it just sucks it all back down the tube. And then the tube just collapses and dissolves back down to the platform. And then the platform goes and dissolves back into the wall. And that all goes into a fairly sophisticated recycling system. So if you think about um, the the gaseous environment, like the air that you breathe, think of that as being a little bit like its respiratory system. And the breaking of everything down, think about that as being a little bit like its digestive system. And it has these critters, I'm going to call them bugs. I'm not intimately aware of how it all works, but that they live in there and they're very happy in there, and they break everything down and everything gets recycled. And then the fresh water is filtered out, and that goes to the thirst quenching stations or to the food preparation stations. And then there's another fluid that's a little bit more viscous, and that goes to the community baths. And then after that, it gets circulated through the hydroponic system, which is what feeds the plants. And then there's other leftover material goes into something. I haven't actually seen it work, but as I understand it, you could consider it to be sort of halfway between a 3D printer and a replicator, like what you would see on Star Trek. So they actually, what I call, print anything you need, clothing, accessories, you name it, it will print it. And you don't have to, at first I used my tablet to tell it what I wanted, but after you get used to, you get proficient in telepathy, then you just let the ship know what you need, and it makes it. It's really cool, and it gets delivered to your room. I don't even know how, because I did not see any drones delivering. It just kind of comes out of this little sort of cabinet that I had in my room. So I was able to design my own pajamas and my own casual wear. And that's another thing, there is no stereotype. So people want to know, they think that ET is all the same, and there's so much diversity. There, first of all, aboard the big ship, there's no concept of racism, and there's different kinds of beings. So I have an image here that shows an artistic representation of myself and two of the beings. So the one being on the one side looks very human-like. You probably wouldn't even notice if she was walking down the street as being a different race of being. And the one on, whoops, I got my hand backwards. Then the one on the other side looks very much like what we would consider a gray. So there's all kinds of diversity, and they have no concept for racism, and they intermarry and they interbreed and they have children. By the way, they have children the same way we do, the old-fashioned way, and they form families and they have children. And nobody really cares what everyone else looks like. Like, looks are just not important the way we have it here on Earth. It's a completely different system. But the one thing they all have in common is that they're so lovely. They're so peaceful, loving, sensitive, intelligent, upbeat, happy to help out. You can trust this community in a way that you cannot trust a community here on Earth. There's always some bad apple here on Earth that's going to screw it up for everybody else, rob your purse or God knows what, or make stories about you or God knows what. There's none of that. There's no drama. These beings are at our next stage of development. They've put away their warring ways and they treat each other with the love and respect that they all enjoy. And I cry when I think about it, because to have to come back, and
Culture
since
shock.
I no longer go back to the big ship, I'm sure there's reasons. I sort of know what some of those reasons are. It was because it was an experience that I was supposed to come back and share with the world. And now I've done that. Now I'm getting other inclinations to do other neat stuff. But to come back, to go to Safeway or Walmart and see people shopping and seeing how unhealthy we are and how weak we are and what's become of us as a race, it's shocking, because these beings are very healthy, and their minds, their bodies, and their souls, and they're beautiful. And to think about how people fear them here on earth is just defies logic. It's just unimaginable.
Tragic. No.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love how you go into such depth and such detail about all these things, daily life with the ETs. You get really graphic with their relationships and sex, and all of it is laid out in black and white. It's so interesting. And one thing that you and Dolly have some really remarkable parallels, because Dolly talks about how they don't really have schedules or anything. Everything just flows with what you want to do at that moment. You talk a lot about that in the book. Dolly says, well, they're really always learning all the time. It's all about research and learning. And you talk about that as well. I thought that learning telepathy was very interesting, because Dolly talked about that too. It's not just, of course, a lot of the people I interview. I'm just mentioning Dolly because she's right here. But many people I've interviewed who've had extensive experiences describe these kinds of things. So maybe you could describe like the tablet, because I found that fascinating. It kind of reminded me of Dolly talking about the ET book that she had.
Yeah, well, the tablets are just kind of halfway between a tablet that we would use here on Earth and a cell phone. Kind of the size would be about halfway. It's just made out of clear material. I'm not sure if it's resin or crystal or glass or plastic. I don't know what it's made out of. It doesn't have any dials. It doesn't have any ports. And it has a telepathic interface, even though it's an actual non-biologic technology. And so it just can project flat on the screen or as a three-dimensional image that hovers just above it. And you can use it for all kinds of things. You can use it, like, for instance, when we were down on doing scientific expeditions on different planets, we would use it just to gather frequencies and images of plants and what the plants were made of. It was a diagnostic tool, but it also recorded our thoughts and our feelings, so that when we went back and we put all the information together kind of on a big holographic system, you were able to really learn what it was like to be on that planet and to experience it. But the tablets could also be used, like, for instance, in the beginning, I was taught how to use it so that I could just find my quarters amongst all the other hall. Like, it's laid out like a giant labyrinth, and the big ship is huge. I call it the big ship. It's no exaggeration. Millions of beings live there, and there's sort of, floors. It's sort of saucer shaped. It's sort of spherical, but it's squished on the top and bottom, so it's sort of flattened on the top and the bottom, right? But anyway, there's many floors, and it's all laid out like a labyrinth. So anyway, if it wasn't for my tablet, I never would have been able to find my way back to the quarters. So we could use it for that. You could use it in the beginning for orientation. It's just an amazing little device. But then pretty soon I got to use the virtual reality headsets. And that's sort of one step up in technology. So as I mentioned, the big ship is conscious. and we can telepathically interface with it. And it has all the information. Imagine it like being on Earth where your information stored on a cloud, but this is stored on the consciousness of the big ship. And so when you use the virtual reality, it's just like a thin band that fits around the back of the head and down and on the sides. And there's two little sort of nubs that rest on your temples. That's it. And so you see everything in your imagination as though it's an actual lived experience. That's how you experience it. So you don't have to look through your eyes. You're seeing it in the portal of your imagination. And so you can learn tons of stuff. That's what I used to learn telepathy. And that's how I learned tons and tons of stuff.
Wow, very cool. Well, I want to get to the questions at some point. We got about a half an hour left. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we dive into the questions? I have to let the dog out. He's going crazy.
Not really. I don't know. Seriously, folks, buy the book. I think you'll like it. I think you'll get so much more than what we could talk about here today. And like I said, I've worked hard on it so that I could take you with me, you know, and let you feel what I felt. And I think you're going to love it. I think it's going to make you happy. And I think a lot of what you're going to read about will resonate with you. And I think it's very different than a lot of the UFO and ET narratives that are out there. And that's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just that it gives you another perspective so that you can make up your own mind on what you want to believe in, not believe in, you know, what you may want to try to experience for yourself, because there is the CE5 movement, and you know, I think it's going to gain popularity in the next little while like crazy.
Cool. Well, let's get into some of these questions.
Sure.
Because they actually are some of these answered in your book. Without getting too graphic, ED cases, how do aliens mate? Well, you mentioned that.
Well, I'm not going to get into great detail because I want you to read it for yourself in the book. That's chapter 8. But one thing I will say, and that is everything that's done on the big ship and with these extraterrestrials is love-based. They would never do anything to make anybody feel uncomfortable. Never going to happen. And so their concept of reality is based on what I call the love harmonic. And so they're peaceful, they're mild, they're patient, they're loving, they're joyful. Like you got to understand this is how they are, and that carries over into their sexual relations. And so I would say that in general, the atmosphere is sex positive, but it's not like everybody's running around having sex with everybody. It's not like that at all. People or beings, once they reach sexual maturity, will choose to have some liaisons with one or sometimes two or three different people or beings. Over time, that might change. But the difference is when they're ready to start a family, they choose one mate and they stay in a monogamous relationship from the time they conceive, well, actually before that, and until that child reaches the age of maturity, because they know it's serious business to bring a soul into corporeal reality. It's serious business, and you need to be focused on your children. You need to be focused on your family unit, because then what happens is it ensures the success of your family and the offspring and the future generations. It works. And there's no laws and there's no rules and there's not one way of doing this, but it's generally agreed upon that the beings will be in a monogamous relationship when they want to bring life into their family. And it's a beautiful thing. But they only procreate about the first 100 years. And they will only remain sexual for about the first 200 years, but they live for at least 500 years. So they live much longer than us. So what do they do for that last 300 years? They take their sexual energy and they actually convert it into their paranormal gifts. Advanced telepathy, telekinesis, long range telepathy. They become mentors and spiritual guides, and
Wow.
they're there for wise counsel. And
Yep.
everybody, no matter what their age, respects the elders.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Tall Gray's mama is over 800 years old, and the first few hundred years of her life, she had children, but they all reached maturity. They grew up and they went on and they went into what they were doing, and she moved into service. In other words, she helps
Mhm.
people, and she became a mother liaison with them, and she's
Yes.
been evolving since then, and it's quite amazing to watch. As a matter of fact, I have two hybrid boys with the same tall gray.
Mhm.
And the father of the grace, when they first came to me and asked me if I would join with this, would I consider it? I thought about everything they told me and I decided to do it naturally. Okay.
Mhm.
And the father was like ecstatic. This is great. Okay. And he was monogamous to me throughout their lifetime and actually worked toward raising them when I couldn't be there. Okay.
Mhm.
And it was a lot of the time. And when they finally reached maturity, he moved on and he does other things, but he was monogamous. There is a father of my two daughters, and I'm not going to say who it is, but I am in that's the same thing. Okay. And it is neither me or the father are able to be with them, but I have an identical twin sister who took that role, and she is with them, and she is doing exactly that. And I will, someday, either join back into that particular part of the family, and the father come too, or I'll move on and do other things. But I'm okay with it. It's they're being raised, and I trust, and I know that they're being raised proper, and they can communicate. They know what I'm thinking. They know what I'm doing through her.
Yeah.
So it's not a problem. Also with the father. So yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Some people are
Lovely.
asking where they can get the book. To go on Amazon, type the title of the book, Transdimensional, then type Karen Horton, and it should come
Holton.
up. Holton. Sorry.
Now, some people get no results in the search. So I recommend people when you go onto Amazon, whatever country you're in, there's a little menu up at the top corner, little lines with the menu. Click on that and click on the bookstore. Click on books or click on Kindle and then type in the name and it'll pop up right away.
Yeah.
So if you have trouble, you might have to go to the Amazon bookstore. Yeah. I was going to say too, just to give you guys a little spoiler alert and a little treat. I don't normally share this on shows, but I will tell you that there's also two kinds of psychic sex. And one is mind to mind, and the other one is heart to heart. So the mind to mind is like sharing an erotic fantasy, and it results in rather profound results. Let me just leave it at that. The heart to heart is completely different. You have to be in the same room to have the heart to heart, but you don't actually touch each other, but you do lock eyes. And your heart produces a toroidal field, and your toroidal field and the other beings have to overlap for this to work. And there is no thinking, no fantasizing. It is absolutely 100% sensual physical experience, and it's the most intense. And I'll just leave it at that. You can read more about it in the book, but I just thought I'd give you guys a little spoiler alert for coming to the show today and let you know about that. So there are other ways of having sex than what we know here.
Yes.
All
Exactly.
right. Here's another. We're not going to get to all these questions, guys. I'm going to try. This one is from CT Dark Guy 85. Question for Karen: what do you think is a great approach to meditation for those who are not contactees or naturally more awake?
Okay, I got a hot tip for you guys. Okay, so right now you're focused straight ahead. but you can see your peripheral vision out the sides. So suddenly just sit here and look without moving your eyes from the screen, look out the left and the right using only your peripheral vision. Okay, now take that into a state of meditation. While you're meditating, you want to learn to listen to the peripheral of your mind. You want to listen to the peripheral of your imagination. And contact will bubble in and it'll be very subtle. Those of you who have been pregnant before, you know what it feels like when you first start to feel the baby move within your body. It's like little bubbles breaking. So imagine, similar to that, you get these little communications breaking at the edge of your consciousness. Then as you learn to meditate and quiet your mind, you're making more room for that contact to come into your consciousness. And in the beginning, you'll want to brush it off. You'll say, oh, that's nothing. Oh, that's my imagination. But let it in and let it sit and consider that maybe you're actually having communication. That's what I recommend.
All right. Here's another. Did you want to say something, Dolly?
Nope. I agree with her.
All right. This is from Steve B. Question for Karen. She hasn't addressed this. What race, in quotes, were the ETs you saw? They were different.
Okay.
Do they have names? And
no. No, because nobody speaks English and there are no English concepts to communicate. It's all done through telepathy, and we don't use English when we're doing telepathy. When you read about the book, you'll understand how telepathy works. But the other thing is, I want you all to know that we're all the same species.
Yeah,
we're all the same species.
Yeah, we all have
just different family lines, different races. And aboard the big ship, like I mentioned, there is a great deal of intermarrying. It's not important what star system your ancient ancestors came from. No one gives poop about that. What matters is what kind of a being are you? Are you loving? Are you patient? What kind of a father or a mother would you make if you're looking to form a family and to have offspring? Who do you want to spend your time with? You know, you do get a little energetic signature off everybody. You learn to be like that while you're aboard the big ship. So around some people, you feel a little bit energized. Around other beings, you feel more peaceful. Around other beings, yeah, you might feel a little bit more joyful. Whatever their personality is, that comes through a little bit telepathically. But no, and this is another thing. I didn't address this and I want to. It's really important. Where's the big ship located? What star system? What galaxy? It's not in any of those things. So what I want you to do, I know we're quickly running out of time, but this is important. Imagine 100 different ovals, and each oval represents a different dimensional reality, a different timeline, a different spot in the time-space continuum. Imagine it like a Venn diagram, and all those ovals come together at the center like a daisy. And where all these different realities come together at the center, like the center of a daisy, a flower, that is where the big ship sits. So it actually sits in interdimensional space. And that way beings can immigrate and emigrate and come and go from all different realities. And that's the purpose of the big ship.
Cool. I'm putting a link to the book in the notes because people are saying, I can't find it.
Yeah, unfortunately.
There.
Amazon will correct that. More people go looking for it, they'll figure it out, and their AI will put you in there properly.
The link is too long to fit in the show notes.
Oh, no.
We'll figure it out. Email me.
We'll put it on the website at the end of the show. Comments.
Okay, I could pick up the link and put it in the put it in the comments.
Yeah, if you can. I just tried to do that, and the link that I have was a little bit too long.
Yeah, the live comments, there's not enough space, but after the show, we have comments again, and that is big enough you can put it in there after
I'll
the
put it
show's
in,
over.
yeah, I'll
And
put,
I should have a shorter link here. I really should. If you just want to,
yeah, if you
I'll
could, if
just
you
have
could,
a quick. I'll just have a really quick look here.
because I really want
Uh,
people to be able to find the book.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
So,
I'm just gonna quickly
but yeah, you
take
just
a
got to
look
go to
there.
Amazon. You go to where the book section, not clothes or accessories. And once you're in the book section, type transdimensional and then Karen Holton. It came up right away for me. So I hope you guys are able to find it because it's only fair that Amazon, if they're going to sell the book.
Okay, now will it let me in the chat? Connect to comment. Connect your YouTube account to join the live chat.
Well, if you want to email it to me, I can do it. I can pick up my email while we're still on the show here. We still have a few minutes left.
Yeah.
Or Messenger, whatever is easiest for you. But meanwhile, let me see if I can get to another good question.
I think I can do it this way. Here we go.
I saw you in chat. So
Ta-da! Did it come through?
let me see. Oh, well, Louise just found it. I don't see it in the chat here yet, but do you know the name of the ship you visited? Does your ship have a name?
I just called it the big ship. A lot of what I've described in the book, I don't have language for. Okay, I'm going to email it to you, Preston.
All right. And while you're doing that, I'm going to find another question because I saw one in here that was asked a couple of times
Now the
by
darn thing
Leah,
freezes up.
which is, do the ships purr? Have you heard that, Dolly?
yeah, I've heard that. Talata will hum every now and then, and we can all hear him. And sometimes he'll do something to the skin where he's like transmitting a beat or a hum or something that could be a purr. He's just letting everybody know that he's, hi, I'm around.
And people are asking about the
stupid...
egg, the recent egg
Sorry.
video. Do you want to make a comment on that, Dolly? Well,
that is a psyop that is back engineered, and it's not real. First of all, ET craft, all of them, according to Stephen Greer, he's completely 100% wrong, misinformed, and uneducated in this. And I'm going to be very, very stern about this. All ET craft are powered two ways. They have a type of power source that's nuclear, and they have batteries. And both of those can generate enough power for a craft to come into our atmosphere and hover around and do whatever it needs to do. The eggs work on both energies as well. The nuclear source is very small, so you don't really see it in the engineering of it. They are not white. They are as metallic chrome as you could possibly imagine. The only reason they look white while they're in atmosphere is they are on nuclear power, and they produce a field around them that makes them look white. No ET eggs are here now. Anything you see is back engineered stuff. Ask Michael Schrad, because he's got specs on the back engineered ones, and they are white. So psyop, false flag. Here we go again. It's going to get worse, everybody. You're going to hear more and more and more as time goes on now, and it's going to be completely crazy.
Yes.
ET or
it's
no.
all controlled. Karen, I got it in the notes. I put the link.
Okay.
So anyone who wants to get the book,
yeah,
it should be there in the show chat.
Maybe the audience can let us know whether the link even works.
I'm about to do that right now. I'm playing with it. Hold on a second.
I put it in the private chat to you, Preston, and
the private chat. All right. I put it in the public chat, and it should work.
Okay.
Well, let me just.
Well, hopefully it works, guys. I would love it if it worked. Thank you.
Is. So if you just copy it from there, you should be able to take it.
It works. It takes you to it. I got it.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's a bit frustrating when people say they can't find my book. I'd love it if you could find it easily.
Yeah. Well, when you do post it on Facebook or something, make sure you include the link. So when you click on the picture, it'll take you directly to Amazon. That's a trick I learned
Okay.
instead of just a
Thank
picture
you.
of a book. All right.
Thank you.
Here I saw another question from Leah. That was really interesting. Let me see. Where did I see that? Oh yeah. Hold on a second. Oh, here it is. Sorry to sound silly, but do ETs have crushes or extreme attachments?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
I I talk about the little short redheaded bearded couple that I met, and they're a little different than some of the other ETs. They are actually introduced and bond to each other when they're toddlers, but they don't actually get together until they're reach maturity. But they know each other all their lives, and they're sorry, Mr. Fatty here.
No, we love pets
And
on the show.
and they are they're very close and very intimate. In fact, if one of them dies, the other one will die too. But anyway, they both had the biggest crush on me. It was so cute, and they became very, very dear close friends of mine. Yeah, yeah, it's cute. It's sweet.
Aw, that's awesome. All right. Have you had any recent experiences?
I have not. However, recently, since I published the book, I thought, oh, well, now what am I going to do? I'm finished the book because it's very time consuming, and all of a sudden I started getting these urges to create another book, and I'm going, what? Another book? I just got this one published, and the inclination was to do a picture book. I'm calling it Transdimensional Number 2, Meet the Greys picture book, and Dolly's contributed to it. And some other ET experiencers have contributed to it. And it's going to have over 300 images. Now, they are AI generated, just want to be totally upfront about it. But I just was compelled to keep creating these images, and they were of grays. And I thought, I don't have a lot of experience with grays, which is why I asked other experiencers to contribute to the book. And now it's almost ready to publish. I might even have it ready this week. So there's actually another book, and it's to help people to not be afraid of humanoids that look a little different than us. That's the aim of the book. And I've got different chapters get into all hundreds of images of males, females, children, hybrids. And I've even got a section called gray family photos. It's so cute. It's got the male and the female and the child, and they're posing for like a family picture. And they don't look identical to grays, but you'll get the gist, and it will really help people to overcome the fear, so that when they do see a gray, because it's only a matter of time, then they're not going to be freaked out. They're going to be able to stay grounded no matter what the military industrial complex wants to start putting on the news. Oh, this is grays. Oh, they're the false alien invasion, all that stuff. You can stay totally grounded. You can go, no, that's not a gray, and I'm not fooled. You know what I mean? It's to help people to stay grounded and be more accepting of other beings who look a little different than us, but are our relatives, right?
Yep. I got to send, you allowed me to send a picture that Kasara drew for me after talking to her about Mama and describing her to her. So that's going to be
that's definitely in the book. Yeah.
So
yeah.
Y'all all right. Here's a question from White Dragon. Karen, have you ever piloted an alien craft?
Nope, I have not. Nope. But I will tell you something interesting. Guess how they moved the big ship from point A to point B?
Oh, yeah, this was interesting.
They actually don't move it from point A to point B. What they do is they harness. Remember, I told you in our brains we have technology, that our imaginations are actual technologies that allow us to travel dimensionally. So they actually, the big ship will actually use our collective consciousness to move the big ship and point A becomes point B. They're able to fold, or it's able to fold reality using our consciousness. It's a symbiotic relationship, those that live on the big ship and the big ship itself.
Renee Cruz, is there a UFO shower, a UFO bathtub?
Yes.
Yes and yes. Okay, so in my quarters, I have like a little room off of my sleeping quarters that has like a shower and a place where I could wash or clean up. But we have what I call the communal baths, and we do that every morning. So we get up and we all meet down at the communal baths, and the communal baths are that sort of viscous fluid that that before it goes through the hydroponic system. And it's not like a swimming pool at all. It's more like, if you could imagine, like a narrow river that snakes around, and then different beings just sit in the water at different places. It's kind of dark. There's almost no communication. Everybody just sort of falls into this very relaxed, deep meditative state and just communes with each other. And it's actually more of a healing nutrient for our bodies. It's not something we do to clean our bodies.
Correct.
So,
Yep.
yeah, so there's that.
Very interesting. All right, here's one from Peak. The question is, what techniques have you found helped the most with the overwhelmingness of living dual lives and not having time to process everything?
Well, I'm just going to be really honest. While this was happening to me, I was a mess. I was a complete mess. I was like wandering around my apartment going, what the hell just happened? I did not have enough time to process everything. And then I was back. So it wasn't until after this 3 month of Earth time, which was more like 3.5 years of off-world time. Once that ended, then I was able to slowly put the pieces together. And it took me a number of years, quite literally, to put it all together. And like I said, I socially isolated myself. I couldn't be around people, and especially the nonsense, in mainstream society. Are you kidding after what I've been through? And no one would believe me. I tried telling people, like my family, and they just thought I was nuts. And I just kind of went, okay, well, you know what? I'm just not going to try sharing this. I'm just going to process it. And it literally took years for me to process it. So this happened in 2014. It wasn't until 2017 my guide said, Karen, it's time for you to come out and go public with this. Then it was 2019 or 20 that I met Preston and went public with it. And the rest is history. But, I mean, I don't know. I wish I could give you a tidy answer. I just don't have one.
There is no tidy answer. I lived 2 lives, period, the end. And I would decompress by going out into the woods, climbing trees, and just sitting there going, I didn't talk to anybody. Nothing.
Yeah.
All right. Question from Jay Yarbrough Music. Does the big ship have the ability to heal people?
Oh, absolutely. We have what I call the healing pods. So my buddy took me into this room, but it was huge, like an auditorium, and it was filled with all of these pods. And they lined the room kind of circle within circle within circle formation. Some of them were massive, massive, like I'm assuming they were literally for giants. And a lot of them were like 8 feet long, and they were kind of pellet shaped. And they open up like a clamshell, and you climb inside, and it's like soft moss in the bottom. And when the lid comes down, you're treated with all kinds of frequencies, smells and sounds, gentle sounds and colors and different lights and all of these things. I would always fall asleep. Every time I went into a healing pod, I would fall asleep. And I don't know how long I was in there. But then the top would come up and my buddy would be there smiling and offer me a hand, and I'd feel fantastic. And we needed to use these before we went to different planets, because every planet has its own atmosphere, slightly different, a little bit different gravity, different nutrition, from the plants. Everything's a little bit different. And for you to feel at your best and do the job that you're there to do, you need to condition yourself. And that's what the healing pods were for. but nobody there's sick, because if they ever were sick, they would just use a healing pod, and that's how they keep themselves in perfect health. They don't have to work out or lift weights or jog or anything like that.
All right, we're running out of time. This is a question that comes up a lot. People are always wondering, are there bad aliens out there? Have you had any experience, or did you see any evidence of that?
No. Now, I'm not saying there aren't any assholes. Pardon me. I know I'm not supposed to swear on the show. I'm not saying there aren't any. Maybe there are. I don't know. My experience is a fairly small, contained experience, so I can't speak for all ETs. But based on my experience, no, they're well above our level of development, where they are into what I call the love harmonic, that they would never want to harm anybody, and they would not want to be harmed themselves. In fact, a lot of them don't even think about that. When I was on board, I couldn't communicate what life was like on Earth, because it would be too disturbing for the gentle beings that live there.
Oh.
Yeah.
They'd have nightmares,
Yeah.
literally.
Had that problem with Micha in the Delphi system, my friend. She would ask me things, and she would see things in my head, and she would just like, no, let's not talk about it, because I think too much about all the bad stuff. There are what you would call extraterrestrial. Think of the term extraterrestrial. That means not from Earth. Okay. There are other planets and other systems and other galaxies that are on level with our development. In other words, our evolution. They are, let's put it this way, not okay people either. They're evolving, and they're going through very much like what we go through. Do they have the ability to go to other worlds and meet other people? No, they do not. Do the evolved ETs work with them? Yes, just like they do with us. So there are idiots in the lower understandings of educational and development and moral, spiritual, all of that. And then there are the ETs that do go from place to place, universe to universe, who are billions of years in advance of us. And no, they are not violent. They're not mean. They're not e-holes. They're not any of that. They have evolved way past it. They're all about love. Okay.
Well, we're pretty much out of time. So here's the book again, guys. Karen Holton's Interdimensional Meet the New Neighbors. I did put the link again in chat, so we can look through chat and hopefully be able to find the book more easily than you would have otherwise. Anything else you want to say, Karen, where we can find your podcast?
Yeah, I'm at Karen Holton TV, and that is the name I use for all my channels, so that you can easily find me. And if you want to find me on the audio podcasts, it's the Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton is how you would find me. But if you could just even go Google and go at Karen Holton TV, you'll get tons and tons and tons of options.
All of it. Yep.
Very cool. Well, that was such an awesome show. We're going to have you back again. Once you get that next book out, maybe that would be a good time, so we could talk about that and some more of your experiences. And I still got most of my notes. I never got to them. Thanks so much. That was really a lot of fun. I just love how your experiences and Dolly's and so many other people's match up, and just lovely experiences as well. It's so nice to hear positive stuff.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. I love you both, and much love to your audience, and thank you everybody for joining us.
Awesome. All right, well, I do want to give a quick shout out to all you guys for joining us tonight. We love you so much. We really, really appreciate your very generous donations, Lunar Dove and Namaste. You guys are amazing. The Owl Man, Judy Wilhelm, amazing. Bob Thorson, Wes Decker, Glenn Anderson. I cannot thank you enough. So very cool. You guys are just beyond generous. We love you, love you, love you. Would you come and stay with us, hang out for a couple of hours each Monday evening, and help bring a little light into this world. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed the show, Karen. Thank you again.
Yeah. Thank you. We love you.
Thank you for having me on.
Come back on with us after we hang up, so that we can work that out.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us on the Light Gate on this beautiful Monday night. I hope your weeks are wonderful and productive and joyful. We are coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans in Louisiana at the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. We are on Roku, we are on Rumble, we are on Facebook, and we are on YouTube. I want to say to all our radio listeners, I know you couldn't see what we were showing tonight, but we gave you, I hope, enough information to go find that book. You need to read it. It's a great book. I personally loved it, and I know Preston did too. Good night, everybody. Namaste.